Wen People Talk, Community Podcast. Wen People Talk, Community Podcast, yeah.
Hey everyone, another episode of When People Talk podcast here. I'm John with StormX, and I'm got the pleasure today to have a chat with Brandon. How you
Hey
doing,
guys,
Brandon?
I'm good. Good to meet everybody.
Yeah, how you been?
So far, so good.
Yeah.
It's another awesome week, so can't complain.
Great, man. Great. So I was just thinking the other day, it's been about like 18 months since you and I first met. Do you remember? Do you remember where that was?
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was poker tournament number one. Yeah.
Yeah, the original, man. The original.
Yeah. We met. It's been a while now. I was at the event. Some guy walked in wearing some pretty cool StormX gear, introduced himself as John, and here we are 18 months later, part of the same team.
Yeah, yeah. Back then, I think I think I called myself a community. I think I was like a community ambassador, and
Yep, there's two of you.
yeah. Bills was with me, so that it
Yeah.
was funny because like I remember that event walking in, it was just like starstruck, man. It was like holy crap, like this is the production, this is what goes on behind the scenes. It was totally like overwhelming.
See, that's the thing. I feel like a lot of people they see the event on TV or social media or whatever it is, and like it looks really cool, right? But to be there in person, you walk in, what you see on stream doesn't even really display the whole the event in its entirety. So it is a pretty jaw-dropping event. Luckily for us, we're back at it for number 3 coming up in just a couple weeks. So we've got another awesome lineup and super looking forward to that.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. That's going to be awesome to see that. Just to see the lineup, just to see the people, just to see the interaction. It's just such a cool event, and like I was just totally blown away the first time, and I'm just really cool. It's really cool, and I'm really excited to just see it like happen again. And I think it's interesting because at the time you worked for Poker Go, right? Like
Yep.
you,
So I actually a few years ago was working for Poker Go. Was familiar with StormX just from a user standpoint. Got in touch with Simon. Came up with some ideas on how we could do this event. So yeah, I was actually working for Poker Go when we did that original event. Ended up leaving the team there after a few years. Was kind of taking some time off for a little bit, figuring out what I wanted to do next. And found an opportunity here at StormX, and I'm lucky to still be involved in the event.
yeah, that's cool. It's cool to have you on the StormX side here now too. It's cool to get to know you a little bit more too.
Right, switch to the good guys.
Hey, Poker Go's good guys too. Those are some really good guys over there.
Of course, we just StormX reign supreme. Of course,
Of course, yeah, I'm a little partial too. So, but so
it
how
was
did like
pretty cool. It was cool for me too to go from being a user, right, and interacting with StormX outside, and then getting to come on here, be a part of the team internally, and kind of see what makes it work from the inside out.
right? Yeah, yeah. It's definitely cool to see all the ins and outs and everything that goes into producing the product that everyone gets to use.
Exactly.
So, like when you were with when you were with Poker Go, was that like just because of like what you studied in college, or was it something you had an affinity to poker, or was
Yeah,
there?
so it's funny. It was one of those things. I kind of attribute it to helping grow my love of poker. Um, I played poker amateurly in college, had a little familiarity with it, but nothing too crazy. I had a pretty standard traditional business and sales background, so that's kind of where my background was in education. I originally wanted to get into like athlete representation. I had a background, played sports throughout college, and then even in through high school, excuse me, and then even into college. So that's what I originally wanted to do. With that, you have to have some sort of upper education degree. So graduated from college, was kind of kicking back and forth, going to law school or going to get my MBA. Decided I didn't want to go to 3 more years of school right away, so went and got my MBA. Decided to kind of hit the ground running, working. Got into the advertising world. Was working with a couple of different startups, doing business development, sales, things like that. Got an introduction to the Poker Go team, and joined them there, heading sponsorship and advertising sales. Again, just kind of hit the ground running, was there for a few years and did some really awesome things.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. So like your poker love kind of grew with the Poker Go part of it, I guess.
Exactly. And I actually contribute to our event a lot to that, right? It kind of takes poker in a traditional sense and puts a twist on it where it's not the same names and faces you see all the time, but some of those people are still involved. Um, it's a combination. I think I really like with this event that it brings people from all different aspects and areas. We have people from all around the world that travel to play, people that are pro poker players, celebrities, crypto guys, businessmen and women. It's a wide variety of people. So it's kind of about the networking and camaraderie that comes with it, and not just the poker too. And I think that's what I've really grown to love.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You definitely feel it. Like I definitely felt that when I was there. There's a circle, a knit of people coming together, and that was really neat to see.
Exactly. And it's even some of these like deeper level conversations that have kind of outside of the event, right? It's having dinner, meeting with different people in a space similar to yours and seeing how one company or operation can benefit another. There's a lot of people that leave that event and weekend doing different business deals, connections, investors, whatever it might be.
Yeah, it's cool to see the like-minded people who share, affinities towards things, just kind of networking and building on relationships, and just kind of that's a cool thing to see about the event that happens.
Exactly. That's what I always tell everybody. The best part about poker is putting a bunch of like-minded people in a room and some pretty cool things can happen.
I think it's also cool to see because it's like you've got people have money invested into this thing, and usually money is a very emotional thing. I think it impacts people very emotionally in a deep way, and sometimes that can be a very negative thing. But it's cool to see how people can have like something very emotional on the table going on, and at the same time they're actually deepening bonds amongst each other. And I think that's an amazing thing about it.
No, it is really incredible. And you make it's kind of an ironic point there, right? Because you're right. Anytime somebody's losing money, it's typically not the best time to talk to them about anything else. They're not getting the best version of themselves. I guess that kind of comes. I can speak to this from being a little bit of a poker player myself, is that you definitely have to be able to tame those emotions when you play, because there's going to be things that happen that are outside of your control. So I think going into any sort of poker event or sitting down to play cash games or whatever it might be, you have to know like, hey, I have to tame my emotions and be able to continue on a conversation.
Yeah, that's one of the most amazing things that impresses me about poker players is that they're able to do
Yeah.
that. Which is funny because like you're merging in this tournament, you're merging a lot of crypto people, and within crypto there can be just some crazy wild swings. I mean, the stories that happen in the cryptoverse are just like you couldn't even write them. I don't know that anybody could dream up some of the stuff that we've seen in the last couple of years as a storyline, and then they happen, and then you read behind the scenes. There's a lot going on with the FTX trial with SBF and everything like that. And then just you hear details about everything, and you're like, wow, your jaws drop. So it's kind of neat to see that, like, within the crypto world, there's a lot of people who ride these wild swings of emotion, and that you kind of have to keep a level head. And then you kind of merging that with poker players, and it's like it's a good gathering. It's a good people who are maybe not focused in the same specific areas, but their personalities kind of mesh very well.
Exactly. One, and it's crazy how many of these stories you hear where people have taken some of, poker teaches a lot of good lessons that carry over into a lot of other good aspects, right? Taming those emotions, like I talked about, being able to make a calculated decision under pressure, things like that. That's why you hear a lot of stories of some of these, world-renowned businessmen and women that came from a poker background or things like that.
Yeah, yeah. So you've obviously seen, kind of being at the poker go end of it. You've seen a lot of the ins and outs. You've seen a lot of what happens, kind of behind the scenes a little bit. Not just what's on the production end, like what people see on their screens or on TV or anything like that, but you've actually seen like a lot of the whole sausage making that goes into it. I'm just kind of curious, as someone who's slightly detached from that, like myself, is there anything that you think that might be a common misconception, or something that people would find like kind of surprising about just poker players, or even crypto people in general, about like what happens behind the scenes that you think you could share, maybe?
Sure. So a couple of things on that. I think what a lot of people, I think as far as the players go, I think it's very similar to a lot of things, right? You meet a sports player out in the real world, something like that. A lot of these individuals are put up on a pedestal because of who they are or what they've accomplished. People often have, um, they make assumptions before they ever know the individual. And then I think a lot of these people who don't know these poker players get to sit down with them in an event like this. Some of them have dinner with them, different things like that. And they get to see that side of them as a real person, right? It's no longer the persona they put on TV or on stream or that they align with their poker career. This is them, the real person in the flesh there, presenting themselves as they are. So I think that's kind of been one of the really cool things is a lot of these guys and girls that aren't poker players getting to spend time with these players and see that side of them off stream and spend time with them as people. And then as far as the event and production goes, I think there's a lot more that goes into it that people even realize. This is typically, a multiple month planning process. As far as setting up the studio goes and things like that, it can be anywhere from the 2 to 3 day process. Just getting, StormX branding implemented throughout the studio. It's a little bit over 10,000 square feet, so pretty significant surface area that has to be covered in there. There'll be 9 tables of 9 players, so 81 in total. So it's a pretty substantial covering in there. And then I think sometimes, to your point earlier, the one thing that people don't realize on stream is sometimes like the detail that goes into it and how big of scale it really is, right? On stream you see 1 table, but when you walk in and see 9 tables, 81 players all going at once, it puts further emphasis on that.
Right. Yeah, that's great stuff you bring up there. I think it's good that people know that there's just so much depth to the people, to the events, to everything that you see, that sometimes it's not as simple as what it looks like on screen. So
exactly.
Cool. Yeah.
Well, and then as we announced last week, we're actually giving away a few seats this time. So this is going to be really exciting because now we're going to be able to reward a couple of individuals that have been with StormX, for however long they have, and let them now come out, not only be there and see behind the scenes, but also take place in that event. I think, they'll have a similar experience that I've had being at the event and being around these people. It'll be cool to now put StormX community members in that exact same situation.
Yeah, I was really excited when I heard that we were going to do this. So I can't wait for communities to experience it and users to experience the cool event. So participate.
Like I said, it's an amazing event to watch on stream and see it in action, right? It's a whole nother level to be there in person, to see what goes into building out the event, to see the people there and interact with them in person. And then just the weekend as a whole and what all it entails is pretty incredible.
Yeah. I can't wait for them to experience rubbing elbows with some of the people that are there too.
Right. It's like you're walking in or you're getting a bottle of water at the little shop outside. And then next thing you know, you're next Maria Ho or whoever it might be.
Yeah, I was like starstruck with like Charlie Lee was at the first one, I think, and I was like talking to him just about cars. He's like
casual conversation.
Yeah, just a normal conversation of 2 guys talking about cars, and it was really neat, and I think that's just the coolest aspect of it there. That you can have a normal conversation with a normal person, and
that's the thing too.
There's no barrier to entry. He didn't put any barrier to entry for me to have a conversation with him. It was just like, hey, how are you? And I love that.
And I think especially with crypto and Web3 and even some of these poker players, a lot of them have a persona tied to what they do. Right? If it's crypto, they have a huge online presence, or poker, they're who they are, or make themselves to be on stream and things like that. And like you said, you just ran into him and started talking about cars. I had a similar experience, and we were both in line to get like a bagel because we were starving in the morning. You realize that these people are just like you and I, and it's fun to really get to know them, have a conversation, and kind of hear their background and story. I mean, right. Some of these people have incredible stories, right? Like some of these guys I know some guys that'll be there that came from literally nothing and got into Bitcoin when it was sub $500, and some of them have made significant amounts of money and now are doing incredible things. You know what I mean? It's just amazing to hear some of these stories. I think it helps people remember like why some people started getting into Bitcoin to begin with.
Right. Yep. Definitely. So I'm curious a little bit. So what is your official job title?
Yeah. So my role at StormX, I came on as to lead sports partnerships. As I mentioned, I had a background there, kind of pivoted into a more growth marketing facing role. So my official title is Director of Growth and Partnerships. But as we all know, being in the startup environment, I think it's a role that we're often wearing multiple hats, if that makes sense as well.
Yeah, because like for me, I got the impression like you're the sports guy. I don't know if that's like on your business card or not, but like I'm like Brandon's the sports guy.
it the role originated from that, right? So I came on to help build out and grow the poker tournament that we have each year as part of our partnership, run some of our other partnerships, and then also lead kind of charge in a growth marketing facing role, along with some of our other members.
Right. It seems like a good fit for you though. Like you were saying, like, you know, you have a poker background and like kind of we have a StormX has a partnership with Poker Go. You have a sports background. So
Yeah,
being
it's
involved in sports, it's kind of like it's a good mesh to me, I think. Like
it is, right? It's not a black and white background where it's perfect. It's easy to put into words on a resume, but like when you kind of get a deep level understanding of the background in different ways that I've kind of had my hand involved, it really is a unique role and a role that I'm super grateful to have. Like I said, had some familiarity with StormX long before I was even working with them. Got to work with them, went from being a consumer of StormX or a user of StormX to then working with you guys in a indirect way, not being as part of the internal team, being at Poker Go and working with the team over here, and then now to be internal and see the inner workings and help lead charge and growth for years to come. I'm super grateful for that opportunity.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool to see. What sports did you play? Like you said you played sports like through high school and then into college. Was it one sport? Was it multiple sports?
Yeah, so I growing up I played as many as I could. So if it was fall, it was football. Winter we played basketball. Spring, soccer or baseball, and then summer, a little bit of them all, and right back into football season. So I did everything. If you name it, I probably played it at some point for maybe not for more than a season or two, but I've given it a chance. Hockey, tennis, golf,
Wow.
love them. Eventually, as I got older, it became hard to play multiple. So I football was my true passion. So I kind of carried that into high school, played football in high school, and then ran track a little bit on the side, and then was lucky enough to continue playing football into college before calling it quits.
Wow. So you ran track as well as were you like a running back, linebacker? What?
I was a slot receiver.
Slot
So
receiver.
yeah, shorter, quicker guy. I made my money on the inside.
Ooh, dangerous, man. You got hit.
I tried. I took some nasty hits for sure. But I think it's one of those things you just have to understand it comes with the territory, right? You're like, hey, I can either catch it and get hit or I can drop it and get hit. It's gonna feel the same either way, so might as well make the most of this one.
Is there a hit that sticks with you that you remember as being the worst, or was it so bad you can't even remember it?
No, there's definitely one, you get hit too hard and you don't remember it. That's almost better, right? There was one time, it was in practice too. This is what makes it the worst. My junior year of high school, we were running goal line, right? And we're maybe, 3rd and 5 on the 5-yard line. Third and goal on the 5-yard line, right? And from the slot, we had an outside quarterback picked up the blitz or saw the blitz coming, right? Outside backers coming, calls it or checks me to a slant from the slot. It's wide open, right? But the middle linebacker at the time, already Division I commit, like he's ready to go, right? He was the heart and soul of the defense. about 6'1", 250.
Oof.
Okay. This is I'm a junior in high school. Slants wide open, literally one step slant right there. Quarterback throws me high. I fully extend, go up to get it. Made an awesome catch, but middle backer saw that slant coming too. And so when I'm fully extended up catching the ball, just straight to the ribs. And so I hung on, touchdown, right? Is good win or good play for the offense. Practice got done. I went inside. I took off my shoulder pads, and when I say I didn't have a bruise, like my entire right half of my body was purple.
Ooh.
And we were like 2 weeks out from our first game, and I swear I thought ribs weren't broken, but I thought they were. Like, it was so bruised so fast. I had never seen anything like it. I'm like, I literally cannot breathe. So I don't know if that's it's definitely not the worst injury or anything like that I've ever had. But as far as just hits go, it was one of those hits where like I got hit and I knew that one was going to hurt. And like 30 minutes later, I took a look and I was like, oh yeah, this was bad.
But you held on, so that's
I did hold on. Like I said, it was one of the I got to that point where it was like, hey, I could either catch these and get hit, or you're gonna drop it and get hit. And that's just then you get double punishment, right? You got hit and now you're running or doing push-ups for coach.
right. That's true. Yeah. Ouch. That would hurt with those ribs, man.
Exactly. It's not a fun one for sure. I wouldn't encourage anybody to take rib shots if you don't have to.
So did playing slot receiver prepare you for real life, or was it just a fun passion?
Yeah, I don't even know if it was playing slot receiver, but football for sure did, right? So I tell people all the time, like a lot of my values and work ethic and things like that I carry into the workplace originated from football and sports, right? Like it taught me the very basics, to be on time and what it was like to be part of a team. It was good to learn from an early age that someone was in charge and you could disagree respectfully, but at the end of the day, what coach said went, right? Like it was his call at the end of the day. So I don't think, did playing slot receiver and lifting weights and catching passes, prepare me to be the best director of growth at StormX possible? Maybe not. But like, I think football and sports specifically played a huge contributing factor into not only me in the workplace, but just me and who I am as a person today.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's definitely a great point. I participated in sports as well, and I can definitely, resonate with what you just said. So, it's a cool experience to be in an organization and like a group of people like all working towards a goal. Everyone has a different role,
Exactly. It's good to see people working towards something bigger than themselves, right? And I kind of got to see that at all different levels, where like high school, I went to a high school where we had a lot of talent. Like my senior year, of the 22 starters, 11 on offense, 11 on defense, 20 went on to play Division I football.
Wow.
So like we were pretty stacked. And especially at that age, people often struggle. People want to touch the ball more, and people are complaining because they're not catching enough passes and things like that. And we did a really good job setting that ego aside, and it helped us be as good as we were, right? Then you get into college and you realize, like, hey, we have to work towards a collective goal. But then these people are also trying to make it so that they get to the next level where this becomes their career and they can take care of their families because of this. So then you put that in perspective and you have to really find that balance, right? So it's still working towards being that best version of yourself, but still figuring out how you can contribute to the greater good and be part of something bigger than just you.
Right. Where did you go to college? Where'd you play it?
Yeah, so I did my freshman year at the University of Oregon. I was
okay.
there.
Yeah, that's definitely a launching pad then. A lot of people launch from there. So
Exactly. It was an amazing experience. That was my childhood dream, was to go and play big time Division I football. And I did that there. So went to Oregon my freshman year. After my freshman year, ended up transferring back home. I grew up in Las Vegas, so transferred back to UNLV, played there for a couple years. And then after my junior year, I was in line to graduate, just decided to hang it up and move on to the business world. So hung up the football cleats, went off to grad school, got my MBA, and hit the ground running in the work world.
wow, yeah. Now you're bringing your talents to StormX, so that's cool. It's cool to
Hey,
see.
it comes full circle, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Now you get heavily involved in the sports app. What Within the sports app, what has you really excited about it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
That you can talk about, because I'm
Great.
sure.
Here we go. I was gonna say I don't want to give it all away yet. I'm super, super excited about what we're building with the StormX. I mean, with the Storm app. Um, Sports app, excuse me. StormX Sports. There's too many S's in here. Obviously, back in March, we kind of hinted at it with our first March Madness Bracket Challenge. We saw a ton of early success there. It was super well received amongst the community. We wanted to continue building on that. About a month ago, we launched our free-to-play Pick'em Challenge catered around the NFL season. As we've kind of built on that free-to-play product, we have something launching, and I guess it's just a little under 10 days now at the next StormX Invitational Poker Tournament. I'm super excited about what we're building. It kind of falls in that sports betting, sports, fantasy sports, DFS realm. But while providing users a brand new product that we haven't seen before. And it's specifically friendly to crypto and Web3 users, which I think gives it a unique twist and just a more unique offering than what's currently out there. So without giving too much, essentially what it'll be is it'll allow people it'll allow friends around the world to compete with one another in a new and interactive way. I know that's very vague, but we'll leave it at that for now. Users are going to be able to challenge friends. We essentially have created a user to user marketplace where users can challenge one another in a variety of contests to compete for real money prizes. We have, like I said, it keeps it vague, but we're doing that on purpose. We'll drop some more hints and teasers over the course of the next 10 days or so. But I would really encourage everyone to keep an eye out for the 26th when we gear up to launch this product. We're super excited about what we've been building and really looking forward to sharing it with the community and new users to come.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be neat. It's gonna be right in the vein of what StormX is doing with everything else they do. Really just trying to return value to users, within the crypto space, and
I was just about to say the same thing. You make a great point there, right? Like StormX and at its foundation was built to provide users rewards in the form of crypto cash back, right? We've done it through shopping in a variety of different ways. And now this perfectly, is a perfect use case for us to do that, but in the sports world and something that users feel very strongly and passionately about.
Right. Yep. Definitely. It's cool. I'm excited to see the full unveil.
Exactly. And both you and I being avid sports fans, I think it's particularly right up our alley, right? You combine the crypto Web3 element, and it's kind of two of my favorite worlds colliding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So I guess there's going to be some integration with the sports app during the poker tournament. Is that correct?
That's correct. So for anyone that's seen the poker tournament before, or seen, clips of it or anything like that, essentially what the new product will allow users to do is have a vested interest in the event. Users will be able to compete. They'll be able to make predictions and based on the outcome of the event, as well as particular players and what they think they'll accomplish.
Cool. That's cool. You're participating, right, in the upcoming tournament?
That is the plan. So I'm planning to play. I'm not sure how it's going to go or what I'll be able to accomplish, but fingers crossed. Send the good vibes my way because I certainly need it.
This is your first time participating, right?
This is so the last few. It's a busy week for me. Just a lot going on and a lot that needs to be accomplished. So I had plans of the first time I wasn't sure what to expect and it planned to play. Second time around, planned to play, just kind of a bit chaotic, getting things going. So ended up not sitting. And now the plan is to again play. So fingers crossed.
Right. Hopefully we can have a vested interest in your participation this time.
A vested interest in me is always good. I'm not sure what kind of odds you're getting at that, but hey. All we need is that's what you got to love about poker, right? There's some definitely skill involved, right? But if you bring a little bit of that to the table, you get a little bit of luck and a turbo event like this, and sometimes the cards fall your way, and maybe you can make a little bit of noise.
Yeah, you kind of have to run a little hot at a tournament like the one that StormX does.
Well, it's like last year, right? Richard Lee won, and he took a couple bad beats, and then all of a sudden cars just started running hot, and like he was running good, a couple quick double ups, and all of a sudden he was the chip leader. You get down to final table and he ran good and went home the winner. No poker background, crypto Web3 guy, and took down all the pros.
Wow. Yep. There you
So
go.
it can happen. It can happen.
Definitely. I'm kind of curious. I have a question, maybe a little bit of a zig off of what we have been talking about, but like, what's your story with involvement with crypto? Because like StormX is obviously a crypto company. I'm kind of curious, like when did you see yourself getting into the rabbit hole that is crypto? Is that something that's more recently, or is it something that you've kind of been following from a distance and jumped in at some point? Or
Yeah, great question. So it was kind of similar to my experience with StormX, right? So obviously, I'm not super old, so I wasn't, I grew up kind of as crypto was coming up, right? So I wasn't an early adopter in the first few years type of sense where I was getting in at these crazy price points. But I'd say probably about 4 or 5 years ago now, I really started taking an interest to it. So it was long before I was involved, probably even before that. It was probably as early as when I was in college. At the time I wasn't making a ton of money, was very ambitious. Just kind
was
of
that like
looking
2017, 28, like the last bull peak, or was it like after that peak, or
even a few years earlier than that. So
okay.
maybe like late 2015, early 2016, I probably kind of started taking an interest into it. Probably by like 2017, I started buying a little bit, was kind of like diving into some different projects. I wasn't super heavily invested at any point at that point, or anything like that. But I had, it was starting to make some noise, and it was something that I was interested in. It was also, for me, I obviously, traditional finance was great to me, and there's definitely value there. But I was curious in like what was next, right? Like what was the future and what was that going to entail? And that's really what I saw with crypto Web3. So it wasn't like I was involved in other projects, and that's kind of really what sparked my interest. It was more a mere curiosity in college, kind of started doing my own research, getting into it a little bit. And then by 2017, I was kind of starting to purchase projects and coins that I had interest or found value in.
Right. Yeah. Because it's interesting to me because everybody has kind of a different story. Some people are like the true believers, the OG true believers. I have a friend who was like, I remember like, oh man, it must have been 10 years ago or something like that, where he was telling me all about this thing, and he's got computers in his garage and they're really hot, and he's making internet money, and I'm like, oh, whatever. Now he's like retired in Costa Rica, like, so
There are those stories. You said it right? Like there's three types of people. There's either the early adopters that made a ton of money and like they're good to go, right? There was the middle group who they got in at some point, bull or bear run. It's just a matter of when they got in, whether they're still around or not. And then there's the people that got in too late and they took an absolute beating on whatever they invested, and they jumped out and said, I'm never coming back. So I feel like there's those three groups right now. I'm definitely in that middle one. But yeah, you're right. There's some crazy stories too, right? I unfortunately didn't build any crazy computers. I would have loved to. I would have loved to have been that story, but unfortunately that one's not me.
yeah, me too, man. I was too busy at the time doing some other stuff, I was like, that sounds neat. No.
Exactly. It takes a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm. My favorite though are the never come backers who always come back at the at the peak bull run of the next cycle. I'm like, you
Ready
could
to
just
do it again.
You didn't have to go away.
They really like that pain. They're just back for another cycle of it.
Like, don't do the self-harm. Just stay. Just stay.
They never learn.
No, it's fun. It's fun though. But
It is.
yeah,
I've really enjoyed it, right? There's no doubt there's ups and downs to the industry and swings like you've never seen before, right? So I think this is kind of, it goes back to, this is where it ties into poker and it ties into sports and things like that, is the ability to keep your emotions level, right? It's calculated risk management. It's not over leveraging yourself. It's making sure that you're in position to weather these storms because it's not traditional, right? Like it doesn't follow patterns that we've typically seen before and things like that. So it really is an interesting space. What I also have loved about it is the people you meet from it, right? Is I've met people from all different backgrounds and ways of life that have gotten to crypto for a variety of reasons.
yeah, I always love, like, I mean, like everyone loves bull markets, everyone loves the feel good, ooh, tingly feeling of a bull market. But man, what I love about bear markets is the people that are left are some of the most amazing people. So it's like, I don't mind them because it's like that's where you build some cool connections with people. That's where you see some cool products developed and worked on and come to market. Like, so, I guess there's an emotional pain to the bear, but there's also some positive side to it too that I think is just really neat to be able to participate in. But,
Absolutely.
so I have another kind of oddball question. It's actually kind of in all the conversations I have on the podcast, I always want to ask like one specific question. So if you'll indulge me here, the framing is kind of like, I think everybody in life has a superpower. It's like something unique to them that they just, it's a talent, it's an ability, it's a sense, it's something kind of, maybe it's beyond words fully to understand it, but it's something that they possess that they're able to like bring forth in the world that is special to them. And like when they're engaging in that, it's like they get like a deep sense of meaning and purpose, and it's just like it's deep satisfaction. And so I'm kind of curious if you kind of understand what I'm kind of trying to get at,
Yeah.
first of all, but then also like if you've ever thought about like, do you have a superpower? And like, if you do, what do you think it is?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I do understand the question. And it's a great question at that. I think for me, it's not a characteristic or a necessary superpower in the sense that nobody else has it, but I do think it's something that makes me special. And I think it's my ability to motivate and lead people. And when I say motivate and lead, not in a sense as being the boss and telling people what to do, but in a sense of, everybody goes through different cycles, right? There's times when they're less motivated, times where they need a little bit of a push, things like that. I think I do a really good job of getting a feel for people and kind of the situation that they're in and providing that motivation or boost where it's needed, right? Maybe somebody's down in the dumps about a mistake they made and it's helping them or providing words of encouragement to work through that mistake. Or it's somebody who's, struggling on the personal front, just providing them some support on the work side or being there to let them know that it's going to be okay in the end. You know what I mean? I think not that people do a bad job of this, but I think the ability to understand people and kind of get a read on them is underutilized, right? I think people go through a lot of different things and are doing a lot of different things. And the more you can understand and be in touch with people, the better you can help them succeed, right? Person who has a lot of struggles going on at home with their family life probably isn't going to be the best version of themselves when they show up at work, right? Things happen sometimes. It's not my job as their leader or boss to have to yell at them and tell them I need more. Rather, my style would be to get an understanding of what they're going through, see how we can kind of adjust the schedule or workflow to better benefit them. And by taking some of that burden off, you typically see more success naturally, right? So I think that's kind of my superpower, if you'll call it, is the ability to motivate people and lead them in a meaningful direction.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. And that definitely resonates, from what I know about you, Brandon, and like the time we spent together. I think you definitely do have a good sense on what a situation calls for, to move it in a positive direction. So that's cool to see. I'm kind of curious because I can see do you ever run into situations where like you get a sense of that a situation or something in a relationship needs something specific, but it's like a hard message to deliver? Like, do you ever run into that? And like, I'm kind of curious if you do, like how do you navigate that? Because it's like, do you feel like you have to have a tough conversation, or do you kind of like play it on the sides?
So that's a great question. It's very tough in that situation, right? I think it really just depends on the circumstance and who the individual is. Obviously depending on like what it is. Like let's say it also depends on the dynamic, right? If I see a friend that's struggling, it's not necessarily if I see a friend that's struggling and it's impacting their work performance, it's not necessarily my job to go and correct that, right? Now, if it's somebody, so like in that situation, if I don't think the message is going to be well received, maybe I don't push it that hard. Whereas let's say somebody that worked for me was struggling, right? It may be a tough conversation that they don't want to have, but you still got to have that conversation because it's inevitable and it's impacting your workplace. So I think nobody likes to have tough conversations. With being a leader and that kind of being my superpower, if you'll call it, I think that you have to acknowledge that sometimes that's what it's going to take, right? Is there's going to be tough conversations that have to be had. I wish every conversation was pleasant with everybody, but that's unfortunately just not the reality of the situation. But as far as I go and whether or not I'm willing to have that tough conversation, I guess it's just a matter of kind of situational and depends whether that's required, or if it's not required, then sometimes it's better to let it go, right? You can motivate people and lead them in the best way possible. But if a particular conversation is going to set them off or something like that, sometimes it's better just not to have it.
Yeah, I definitely can understand that. But I also know like sometimes like my experience has been sometimes on the other side of a really hard conversation is a great friendship too. So like it sometimes is like sometimes it's worth it, I guess, and it's hard to know on a case by case basis. I guess you just kind of have to make the call.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's very situational because, like, same thing. Like my closest friends, I've had the toughest conversations with. Some to them, some of them with me. Like sometimes you just need those kind of people to like keep you grounded and hold you down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. I've had some similar experiences like that. I've had other experiences where I've had a conversation with people and it didn't go as great.
Yeah, definitely experienced that too. So I'm also curious too because superpowers are superpowers, and then of course within the world of like comic books, you have villains and like you have superheroes and supervillains. Do you ever find yourself like ever called like to use your superpower for the dark side or something, or like do you see a negative component of it? Because like I don't know that superpowers are always positive. I mean, I've certainly in my own life I've been tempted at times to take something that I'm talented in and using it for my own purposes or hurt somebody. Like I don't know. And if you don't
Sure.
want to answer it, that's fine. I mean,
No, I'm happy to answer it. So I feel like, I mean, the downside of being a good leader and being able to motivate people is that you can lead them in the wrong direction, right? You can often easily convince people to go down a path that they shouldn't if that's what your superpower really is. Now, with that, I feel like that falls on the person. That's where it's a conscious decision that like if you really want to there's a difference between being a good leader and motivator and just being a leader and motivator, right? If somebody's leading people down the wrong path, I'd say you can lead people and you can motivate people, but not in a good way. I like
yeah, I
things
mean, you don't want to be a manipulator, I guess is kind of what I'm getting. Yeah.
exactly right. Whereas me, I look at it in the sense that like I try to bring out the best in people. So I'm not necessarily I think the downside would be that you can lead them in a wrong direction, but that's not a decision I would ever make, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I like pride myself on being a high value, high character guy. And so for me, the like gratification from being a leader and motivator comes from helping people be the best version of themselves.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that like the sense I get from you is like in our relationship and in our conversations is like you're actually genuinely happy when other people succeed. because
That's the thing.
I've seen people who help people and they hold it over them. Like you owe me something, or your success wasn't your own, it was me or whatever. And it's like, I never, ever, ever get any, even a whiff of that coming from you. And that's, I think that speaks to your character as well. So.
For sure. I really appreciate that. And I try to do a really good job of that, right? Like when people do a good job, I feel like it should be highlighted and it should be called out. If somebody accomplishes something, there's certain things in place for people to be heard and rewarded for the things that they do. And I just try to really do a good job of that. Because I look at myself, right? And it's the same exact situation when I do things well. I like to be rewarded and be acknowledged for it. So why wouldn't anybody else?
Right. Yep. That's a great point. It's dead on. So, and honestly, like this is the coolest part about my experience with everybody that works at StormX is they're all high character people. And things like this are like, it's just intuitive to people. Like they don't have to learn how to be nice. They don't have to learn how to be good people. And for me in the crypto space, it's such a like refreshing breath of air to be around people like that. Because there are people who seek to take advantage of your lack of knowledge, or you're a trusting person. They want to take advantage of your trust to monetize, to extract, monetary value out of you and your trust. And so it's just like, it's so refreshing to be around people who are like that, who it's just intuitive to them that they have that good nature to them, the good values, the good ethics.
I totally agree. And I think we got to give a shout out to Calvin and Simon for the team they've built underneath them, right? Because it's an incredibly hard thing to do, especially an all remote team, is to build a team of high character people. Like there's always going to be a few bad actors or people that you didn't understand. It's not to say every employee we've ever had's been perfect, but I think they've done an incredible job as founder and co-founder of building out a team underneath them to that is very knowledgeable and skilled in their space, but B is also a team of high character individuals that work very well together.
Yeah, absolutely. It comes through very solidly. And, like you said, like no one's ever going to be perfect. There's always going to be, something that goes wrong. But even in those moments, I feel like, it's always, everything's always handled gracefully. It's handled well. It's handled with the topmost ethics and, and concern for the users and for each other, the team you work with. It just comes through in spades and you feel it top to bottom. And I think that's just an amazing testament to the work that, like you said, Calvin and Simon have done, in building the StormX team, and then, launch padding from that into, the user interface, delivering value to users, building an app that's, people like, and can use to benefit themselves.
Absolutely.
Well, Brandon, that's about the amount of time I wanted to take for our conversation. I really want to just thank you for taking the time to have a chat, and hopefully, everybody in StormX ecosystem gets to enjoy this as much as I did.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me. Look forward to hopefully doing it again in the near future, and appreciate the time today.
Yeah, and if you do end up at the table, man, best of luck. I know that I'll be rooting for you, and I'm sure a bunch of people in the community will be.
Yeah, absolutely. Tune in. Be ready for the product update and launch. Even if your money's not on me to win, I'll forgive you. But at least keep an eye out on it, because you'll definitely want to take advantage.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks, John.
All right. See you, everybody.